Kerry, welcome to the show.
Hi, Jason. Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Kerry, I'm really excited to have a esteemed and experienced estate planner to be on the show today and talk about some of the issues that come up with a lot of family dynamics.
Yep, absolutely.
So, Kerry, I know you deal with a lot of families with just a lot of different issues. We primarily practice criminal defense. What happens when or like a family comes to you and says, Kerry, we want to do some estate planning, but one of our children or one of the people in our family who we want to leave some assets to has a drug addiction issue, has a problem in their
hmm
life that we're concerned that they're going to use their inheritance in a way that is not the best for them.
Yeah, it's a great question, Jason, and it actually comes up quite frequently. There may be a known issue now, or there may be some concerns about issues in the future. There's a vehicle that I think a lot of folks are familiar with that they maybe think doesn't apply to them, but it does specifically for this reason. That's something called a revocable trust.
Perfect.
And in that vehicle, you can set up terms and conditions whereby, let's say a quarter of whatever's in there is supposed to go to a certain child. And I use child loosely. We can be talking about a 15-year-old, a 25-year-old, a 30-year-old, or a 40-year-old.
Right.
And you can put guardrails around that where you say if the trustee has reason to know about destructive behaviors or immature uses of money that would come to this person, they can hold payments back directly from that person. If that person says, you know what, I really want to get my life together, I really want to go to therapy, or I want to go to an AA or a Gamblers Anonymous, the trustee can pay that organization directly. They can pay rent, so they can pay expenses on behalf of that person, but they don't have to give them money outright.
So that also puts a lot of consideration in terms of who you have as a trustee, because it sounds like a lot of
It does.
responsibility falls
It
on that
does.
person. So how do you advise a family in terms of who they should pick as a trustee?
Yep. Often the folks I work with pick another family member that can have a lot of pressures, especially if it's a sibling, saying yes or no to another sibling. At that point, I generally suggest that it might be a good idea to bring in a professional, whether that's a CPA, a local bank, another lawyer, and that can just take some of the heat off of the family member in terms of the yes or no decisions about distributing money.
So are these the? So it sounds like it's pretty thorough in terms of the initial conversations that you have, and as it changes over time, is that something that you can help them kind of adjust to, or do you have to kind of rewrite the whole trust in its entirety?
Yeah. And that's, the great legal answer, Jason. It depends. So, I get to throw that one out there. If the person whose name is on the top of the document or the person who created the trust is still alive, they can change whatever they want. So they
Okay.
have full autonomy over the document as long as they're alive. After they've passed, that document generally locks up, and specific provisions need to be added to make any substantive changes. But most estate planning lawyers write a pretty elastic document. So for instance, they'll put those provisions in there, about sort of undesirable behaviors. They won't make it the trustee's responsibility to become a therapist or a private detective. If
Right.
the trustee has reason to know, then, they behave a certain way. If they know that the person has really shown that they've moved on and moved past the behaviors, then, the trustee can decide not to limit the beneficiary's access to the trust proceeds. Um,
Yep. It makes a lot of sense. But what if you have a really stubborn child in terms of them trying to challenge the trustee? Like, how would they go about that, and what safeguards can you
yeah.
put in place to kind of prevent some of that?
Yeah. Something folks may be familiar with is a term called a no contest clause. In the legal world, it's the interorum clause. And generally, those are the kinds of clauses that say if one of the beneficiaries challenges the trust or a will for that matter for a frivolous reason, there's a good chance that they might be cut off from everything.
Oh,
Obviously, if there's a good substantive legal reason, for a lawsuit, that's one thing. But if it's a frivolous, just because you don't like the terms that mom or dad set up, or you want more, there's a good chance that a court could decide that you get nothing.
oh wow. So that's a very powerful stick in case
Yeah,
people want to be stubborn just to be
yeah,
stubborn. Now,
right,
Kerry, can you tell us
right.
about the rest of your practice? Like, when should be? I have your
Yeah,
email here. I have your phone number here. When should be people contacting you?
yeah. Well, Jason, I work with the 99%. So the folks that I'm dealing with aren't looking to make huge tax gifts or give stuff to libraries or get their names on buildings. What I really hope my clients achieve are just a solid plan for their families so that their assets go to the people of their choosing on the time horizon that they want, but that they also have protections in place, while we're still here. We need things. We need permission slips for someone to help us out with our bank accounts and paying our taxes, or talking to the doctor if for some reason we're not able to do that. So it really is a suite of documents that help us while we're here, and then when we're no longer able to handle our own affairs after we've passed away.
Okay, I think there's a misnomer for people to think a lot. Obviously, it's important the older you get to have these documents, but it really should. Every person should have an estate plan, no matter their age, and especially after they have
Absolutely.
children.
Yeah. Yeah. It really starts at 18, Jason.
Right.
Once we're 18, mom and dad are not entitled to get information from the doctor. We still think of 18-year-olds as kids. The law doesn't. So it really does start at 18 with just a basic healthcare proxy and a power of attorney, especially if you're going off to college or the military.
Right.
And then, as soon as we start to acquire things, bank accounts, a condo, a car, it's just good to have basic documents in place so that, again, you're setting the terms of what happens to those things. Otherwise, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has already written an estate plan for all of us. We just might not want it.
Yeah, I mean, exactly right. So you bring up two great points there. One, a 18-year-old child can be, or a young person can be in someone's house. The parents are making a decision for them the entire time, and then a week later they go to college and something happens at college. Hopefully not, but if they're
Mm-hmm.
unconscious for a couple hours, they need someone to make a decision. The hospital says, "Well, we can't even tell you if this person's
Right.
here or not." And it's a
Right.
scary thing because
Right.
not every student goes to school in town.
Mm-hmm.
They might be across country, they might be in a different state, and good for them in terms of HIPAA laws and privacy rights. But that's not what the whole purpose was, right? It wasn't to keep
Right.
information from people that you love and that you want to know
Right.
this information. What if you're at the police station? What if you're at the hospital? What if they think that
Right.
you're missing? Who can they talk to in terms of that stuff? So I think it's
Mm-hmm.
it's a really important point that people need to realize that they're not allowed to have that conversation because at 18 years old, you are considered an adult.
Mm-hmm. Because heavens knows I didn't do anything foolish, from the ages of 18 to 30, but I'm sure other people might. So, it's just protection from our own growing pains, shall we say, to make sure that you can get the support that you need, both from a medical and a financial perspective,
Right.
if necessary.
So I think also the other important point that you brought up was saying that the state of Massachusetts already has an estate plan for you. So there's someone that in
Mm-hmm.
particular in your life that you may not think is ideal to have your money. That person might actually have
Yeah.
access to your stuff
Right.
after you're not around.
Right.
So,
Right.
which is I think is kind of ironic and one of those things that people do
Yeah.
not intend for, but that doesn't really matter, right?
Mhm.
They already have these rules in
Yeah.
place for that.
Right. It's sort of my default is we all have an estate plan. Do we want it? Did the Commonwealth of Massachusetts write it, or did we write it?
That's so true. So to the hardest part of the interview, I know you are a great traveler. You have a lot of experience in terms of traveling. I got two questions for you. One,
Yeah.
what was your favorite place to go to so
Mm-hmm.
far? And my second question
Yeah.
would be, what is the place post-pandemic you're most looking forward to going to?
Mm-hmm. Well, the second one's the easiest. Barcelona. Haven't been
Oh,
there yet, so I'm hoping to get there next. And I've just been so fortunate to travel to so many great places. I'd have to say the most extraordinary place I've been to was South Africa on a safari.
Oh, wow. That's tremendous.
Yeah,
And,
it was just hard to believe it was the same planet.
yeah, and I would say you're gonna love Barcelona. My wife and I went there for our honeymoon, and we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary. So you're gonna love it.
Ooh, great!
Yeah.
I think 10 is worth another trip. I think you need to plan another trip. That's a big number.
Right. Thank you. So thanks for coming on today, Kerry, and I hope we have you back again soon.
Yeah, absolute pleasure, Jason. Thank you.